Welcome, guys. This is our first AMA. And our first AMA will be with MyGeoTokens and a little bit about MyGeoTokens. So, my MGT is building a geospatial NFT marketplace on the Solana network. The MGT tech is patent pending, and they plan on changing the way businesses, sport teams, realtors, and social media platforms interact with the consumer. So in the Git book, I noticed several use case scenarios, and it seems we probably could talk about those the entire AM, but I will hand it over to Pepe with DeFi-Logic and the founder Steve of MyGeoTokens in just a moment. But as you saw, I did drop a couple links into the chat. MGT is hosting a giveaway for all those that attend this AMA today. And if you head over to their Discord, go to the giveaway channel there on the left, hit the giveaway bot emoji to enter and participate in the giveaway, and they will announce the winners after the AMA today. All right, Steve, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you if you want to get us started with kind of an overview of MyGeoTokens. What is it all about?
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the introduction, Christine, and thanks for allowing me to go in front of your audience here. So MyGeoTokens it's the world's first geospatial NFT marketplace. And when we say that, what we mean to say is that you need to be at a certain place in order to collect an NFT. When someone wants to drop an NFT, they'd have to define exactly where the collectors would need to be to pick it up. And then you need to prove through our patent pending technology, it's a geosync type technology where you draw the perimeter of where people need to be within in order to collect. And then once let's say you're on vacation, you wake up in the morning, you're in a hotel room, you can say, all right, what's been dropped around me? What's on the beach today for pickup? What's in the hotel? We intend for this to be onboard a ton of Web3 users without even know that they're being onboarded. So we think MyGeoTokens is going to create a game, in a sense, so a Web3 game that people will flock to and onboard the next billion Web3 users.
Thank you for the overview. So I know Pepe has some questions lined up here, so I will let him unmute and you guys can get into it. And then also, in the meantime, while these guys are chatting about MyGeoTokens, if you have any questions, drop it into the chat for us. At the end, we'll round back with Steve and ask those questions. So go right ahead, and I'll collect questions in the chat as we go along.
So just to be fully transparent, some of the team members over at DeFi-Logic have been working with and are working with MyGeoTokens in terms of marketing, business structure, stuff like that. So we like to be very transparent at DeFi-Logic. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on. And this is one of the opportunities that I decided to work with and the team decided to work with just because of the real world use case. I would say the overwhelming majority of crypto is just BS, right? It's just a lot of gambling. It's a lot of, just beyond pump and dumps. It's bad execution. It's not really very well conceptually thought out prior to the bad execution, in my experience. But this is definitely one of the opportunities in the space where you thought this out very well. I mean, in my view. And that's why when you reached out, I was like, man, I totally see the upside. I can see this working in so many different ways. And this is really what crypto is about, and how it's really going to change the world. We already have NFTs being used, at least, in testing with, California Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So they're building their own private blockchain on Tezos, utilizing NFTs to tokenize the real world assets. And so this is kind of an opportunity where it's not tokenizing real world assets per se. It can, but it's really elevating the experience of products and services by bridging Web3 in a way that I think you've talked about it before, where people won't even know that they're in Web3. So maybe you could speak to that and just kind of give a bit of a summary.
Yeah, thanks. And yes, thank you for working with me on the project. I managed to get the smartest brains that I could find in this community. And it's been an awesome ride so far. So it's in a good place because of you guys. Thank you. Yeah, so, I keep telling people I want my dad to be able to use this. If my dad can't use this platform, then it's failing. And in order to do that, there needs to be a few things that happen. And it needs to be very simple, right? Through very simple UI, UX. We need to be able to bring people out of the world. The world needs to push this at people rather than the people having to go out and do it, right? So Our IP is the geofencing, and that's the patent. That's the patent pending. But I often talk about our second most important piece of technology with the project, which is not patented. It's been done before, but it's the minting on demand. Right. So this is a process whereby if you prove that you're within the perimeter, if you're within the VIP section of the concert or the festival or something. So yes, you're a green dot in a red fence. You can pull down and collect. And when you pull down and collect, you're not actually minting with that swipe down. You're pulling down a file and you're putting it within your MyGeoTokens native wallet. This is not yet on chain. And this is the big thing, is that you're paying for it, you're transacting for it, but you're not having to create and connect a wallet, a crypto wallet, which is the reason what people will say, especially when they're in front of a concert or in front of a DJ or something like that, they're going to say, whoa, okay, I can't do that right now. So we need to make it very simple, like 3 steps to pull down and pay. And then it obviously does give them an option in that moment to mint right now. If they are sort of crypto savvy and if they do have a wallet minted, they can absolutely do that. But if they don't, this is their first time and they're just getting into this, then they just let it reside in that MGT wallet. And if and when, and maybe it's just a dud NFT, it doesn't gain any value, it's just kind of whatever, there's no value, maybe it doesn't make sense to mint, but they can mint it on their own time, on demand, right? This minting on demand. So that's going to be the primary mechanism that allows us to onboard a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the option between minting or not minting, which allows that intersection between, we could say, like Web 2 and Web 3, and kind of gives the exposure. It's a kind of like another onboarding in terms of education, where someone's like, oh, why is there like an NFT version versus like the Web 2 version within the same ecosystem, right?
Yeah, it has to look very Web 2. It can't scare people off, and my dad's scared off pretty easily. So I'm building it.
Same with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think all the dads in here, all the people in here that have dads, they're scared. So,
and our kids will be talking the same shit about us when they're older, right?
Right. Oh yeah. 100%. I think Sloth's oldest says that he types slow, and he's in IT, which is hilarious. So I think one other thing because we have a lot of gigabrains in here, so they'll probably have some good questions. I mean, we already see some coming into the chat, but one of the things that could be concerning for people, right, is the fact is like, okay, like because of the revenue share opportunity as part of the utility, it's not the only part of the utility. Would we run into the problem of security? And I think that we do have a write-up on that in terms of some documents that were submitted to in the Ripple case, in that some of the SEC commissioners were having a debate about token morphing, and that with certain, proper structuring and things like that, a asset could start out as a security and move to being a commodity, or vice versa. So I think that's one thing that, might alleviate some of the concern in that regard. But also, if you could talk to some of the other aspects of utility that I think are really cool outside of just the revenue share, which I mean is a major component, and that's a big narrative in crypto right now, and I think it will be moving forward.
Yeah, the revenue share is the big one. It's kind of seems to be what everybody wants right now. So we definitely do have the revenue share, but in addition to that, we do the travel vouchers. So for each variation of the 5 pre-sale NFTs that we'll have for sale, there's a different value of travel voucher available, and we'll do this giveaway every year. So it's not just a one time, but it's every year we'll give away a travel voucher. One of the neat pieces of utility and value, I think, is so within the platform itself, you're going to be able to schedule a drop, right? So if you're a DJ or an artist, you're about to head up on stage, but you want to, make this happen and make sure it drops at midnight when you drop your final set, you can schedule this, and nobody knows the schedule except for MyGeoTokens, right? It's always when it drops onto the map, it's always a surprise when that pin appears. But for the holders of our NFTs, we're going to publish this schedule as like a feed, so they'll have advance heads up on all the drops that are coming through the platform, which I think is a pretty cool and creative way. Yeah, so that's a really neat piece of utility as well. On top of, we'll have a Discord channel for these folks. And another thing is, so these pre-sale NFTs, there's 5 variations. There's one of Geo's are like a little mascot, big part of our brand. We're going to do a lot with Geo over time. He's on a rock. He's a POTUS Geo coming off of a plane. He's our most rare is Lunar Geo, where he's on the moon. But we intend for these same 5 variations, we intend for them to become more 3D, more animated, more cool over time. And we're going to drop these as our golden eggs around the world. So they'll be kind of a piece of our cool factor, I think, moving forward is these golden eggs that we'll throw out to the map. And we want them to be highly desired. And the pre-sale NFT holders will also have some advanced heads up and some clues as to where these guys are being dropped. So we're playing around with a whole bunch. I think we're in a spot right now where if I looked at these things as a potential customer, I'd say, okay, that's pretty cool. They're each one of these, even if I get one of the least valuable ones, it's still pretty neat. There's still value there.
Yeah, and why don't you talk about the Super Geo, because that definitely will open up a secondary market for the NFTs, without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. So nobody's seen what Super Geo looks like right now, except for us and the team. But basically, anybody who holds one of each of the 5 variations will be airdropped a Super Geo. So that's kind of like the ultimate collector card. And there's an additional 5% of revenue share for that Super Geo club. So, it's obviously the highest level. And when you start to add up all the revenue share, it would equal about 20%. If in that Super Geo club, 20% of that of the total revenue for the collectors club.
Yeah, definitely. You had a lot of really good ideas coming into it for sure. And I think all we just did was just kind of fine tune it and polish it. But I think that what is currently being offered has a lot of value from different angles in terms of, like front running the narrative. You can find out where these drops are going to be. So like if there's some kind of influencer or product or service launch that's going to be up and coming, the collectors club will know about it before anybody else, because they'll have the information from the back end on the app basically, and nobody else will have that information. So that's definitely a big upside, especially when we see what happens with whitelists just in Web3, but outside of that, in terms of sale for products and crazy thing that people do for, especially, like Air Jordans, for example, right? I mean, that's nuts. So something like that. And we have some of the use cases on the Git book, hypothetical, but, they're there. So, yeah. And then do you want to talk about the dev team or I guess dev teams a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we are partnered with, for the development of the platform itself, we are partnered with Robot Sea Monster. They are their development company, a Web3 gaming development company, and I wanted to be fairly specific with what I was searching for in a partner for this project, because it needs to be awesome, it needs to be perfect. So I needed somebody with some experience, and Robot Sea Monster has a wicked portfolio of products, and they're super fired up. They're the ones that have been building it so far. We're about, I'd say 35% into the build right now. So we'll be launched spring 2024, sort of end of April-ish is what I'm hoping for. And they're rock stars. They're really good, and I encourage you to go check them out, because they're producing some pretty cool stuff right now. And then obviously working with, I call the folks from this channel the A team. They're killing it on the community building and marketing. I also have a chief creative officer on board, who's kind of the first guy to start working with me on all this stuff. Aid, and he's worked with some of the big brands around the world. He's really good at making things look good. So he's been a good partner in that sense. I can kind of dream it up, and he can kind of make it happen. Yeah, and then we've got people helping out in the community now too. Like we got all sorts of people sort of chipping in on this project. It's been incredible so far. Got people within the community wanting to help all the time. It's been great.
Slowly building, yeah, and the stuff that AT's coming up with is really awesome stuff. Seriously. So yeah, I think that's the majority of the questions that I have. I see we have an incredible amount of questions, so I'll hand it off to Christine. It seems like she's got her work cut out for her, and you got some questions to answer.
Thank you. Yes, and our community does not disappoint. I love it. We're always firing questions at each other, and they showed up with lots of questions. So I tried to organize them a little bit so they kind of flow, and hopefully we don't have any that repeat. I did try to go through and look, but if we do, that's quite all right. So we'll start with he said, what was your inspiration for this project?
Original inspiration was the idea of geocaching. They say that at any point in time, there's up to 1 million people out there running through the woods looking for treasure. So I have done that before. I think it's kind of cool. I'm a bit of a dork under it all. So I definitely think that geocaching is cool. And I thought there's a new way to do that, a new way to search for digital treasure. And I had been in the crypto market. My mentor gave me a heads up on Ethereum when it was like $5 or $6. I didn't buy then, but I did get into Ethereum at like $50, $60. So I've been in it for a long time. And then I saw this perfect marriage between like a geocaching 2.0 and blockchain or Web3. So that was the inspiration.
I'm gonna make us all jealous with that Ethereum price you got in that. So it sounds like you've been in crypto for a while, of course. Is this your first project then?
I've had other projects. So, my background is I had the call the golden handcuffs on for a lot of years. I worked for corporate Canada, trying to climb the corporate ladder. And, my last job, I was EVP at the largest traffic company across Canada called ATS Traffic. And I ran their tech division across the country called IntelliTraffic. So I come from this classic world of business, and life was pretty good, but not good enough. And I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I got kids, and I'm starting to get a few grays in my beard now. So I figured that if I'm going to do this, I got to do it now. And so yeah, we're rolling. I also have another company called Trafficopolis. This is an traffic engineering and consulting business out of the US. So I'm a business enthusiast. I love business, and I love learning new businesses. And I really like this world of Web3. And I like it for a bunch of reasons. I like the community raising and the community building. I like the technology behind it, and I like the volatility and how quickly you can make money. So there's lots to like about Web3. So I'm just loving immersing myself in all of this now. But is this my first Web3 project? Yeah, I would say it's my first go, but I have a really good track record. And, if you KYC me on LinkedIn and stuff, I'm pretty good at making it happen, executing. If I set out to do something, it typically gets done.
I like it. And I know you seem to be the one. I have a question about a map in any sort of capacity. You seem like the one I should go to with your experience. So with devs, we kind of went over, and so identity, I'll skip that one. And so he also did ask, who are your auditors? Are you to the point of auditing anything yet, or have you decided on any auditors, say for the smart contract, etc.?
No, we haven't decided on auditors for the platform contract audit, which will require an audit. And we're looking into the pre-sale NFT mint. We thought we might have had to have that contract audited as well, but the team that we're working with seems to think that we won't need to have it audited, but a little bit to be looked in there still.
You've got some time as well. So rounding back to kind of the patent. So Identity was wondering, how significant is the patent impact aside from the initial intent? Not sure. Maybe you understand this question a little bit more than I do, but how significant is the patent impact besides the initial intent?
I guess the honest answer to that is I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure
Okay.
how valuable it is. I've always sort of been a believer that it's first to market and then go and hustle and get there and get the first customers. But I was told by more than one wise man or wise women that said that this is cool enough that you should pursue a patent. So we did, and now we're US patent pending after did spend a bunch of dough to determine if it was worthwhile to submit the patent application. So I think we're in a good place with what we're claiming, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure. I've heard there's like a European Web3 sort of intellectual property house right now that I should be looking into also. So I'm sort of figuring out my way. I was told I'm working with a guy, sort of a legal advisor in the space. He said start with the US. So we've started there, and once we go from patent pending to patent, probably look elsewhere to see where else we can expand into or what we can continue doing. But I'm happy we have it. I mean, I do. People like it. Possible investors do like the protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say there, just from me roaming around the space for the past few years, you don't hear patents talked a lot. A lot of people don't bring up patents, but in the real world, patents are your savior. There are companies out there that patent something very specific, and years later nobody can go into that market because they patented it. So it is surprising that you don't hear much about that in the crypto space, but that is something that you did. So for me, I think that was a very smart maneuver, and I don't know much about patents. And I think that I do agree from the investor side. It's definitely nice to see that.
Yeah, I think it's really big, smart business, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's if you're a tech company, which we intend to be, which we are, then you should probably be exploring the patents.
Definitely. So we're going to move on to Some Young's last question. And his is a little bit different. His is about geolocation verification. So how does the geolocation verification technology differ from the current standard for NFT claims? So currently, there are people that they claim a Pope or an NFT at the event. How is geolocation verification technology different?
Yeah, so there would be two ways that you could collect an NFT at an event, location specific NFTs, I should say. The first is by just scanning a QR code at entrance or on a poster as you're walking through the event. And obviously the trouble with that, and that was another inspiration for the project that I didn't speak of, is there's this lack of proof of location. But what can happen is you can send a screenshot of that QR code to your friends back at home on the couch, and they can start collecting the same NFTs that you are at the event. So there's to get around that. And then there's also the NFC, the near field communication technology. So, you can still tap your phone to an NFC device to prove location, and then you can sort of collect an NFT on that. And that is better. That's better than the QR code, but it doesn't fix the problem of the queues. And there's still people going to be lining up. It doesn't solve the t-shirt at the concert line, the merch table queue problem that we see at all these events. So now, we've created a system that is now using geofencing. And geofencing, I always sort of take for granted that everybody understands what geofencing is, because because this was my whole life at the ATS as I sold
Right.
this map tech. But geofencing is basically drawing a polygon, or a whole bunch of coordinates in a line, drawing with your finger a circle on a map, and then it just connects, right? And then you create a cage or this fence on a map. So that's really what it is, and that is our tech, and that is our IP. Is the system whereby one user draws the geofence and determines the area that the second user, through a mobile device, proves their location, and then is able to pick up a digital collectible, an NFT. So I see our product as sort of the third iteration of this on location NFT pickups. It went from QR code to NFC to now geofencing.
Fencing. Yeah, and Skylord, I'm going to jump kind of ahead a little bit. He did have a question where it was, could someone create multiple wallets in the minting location, then mint multiple NFTs and send them to people outside of the minting location? So that was kind of interesting question. And I think it ties into what you're talking about, that yes, somebody could. So you're saying somebody could manipulate kind of the being at the location, but they would still have to go to the secondary marketplace. So they could send, I guess, in a way, but there are a couple, seems like, parameters as far as being on location that are going to be necessary to pick up these NFTs. And if they aren't on location, they would then be able to pick them up on the secondary market, correct?
Yeah, and I don't know who asked the question, but I probably need to hear a little bit more of, like, set that scenario up for me. But I think the answer is yes. You could drop from 3 wallets, say, in 20 minutes, but somebody would still have to be paying or picking those up from that location and then using the secondary markets to move them around, which is probably good, actually. Yeah, I hope I answered that okay, but I would need to be kind of walked through that scenario a little bit more.
Yeah, I know those scenarios get kind of crazy when people start minting NFTs. They'll have like 5 wallets. They're going to town. I mean, people are much more advanced and faster than I am sometimes when it comes to that stuff. It's amazing to watch, though, how they'll kind of work the system, which is always going to be out there. And I'm going to switch gears. I'm bouncing around on questions a little bit because I see that some of these tie together. So I see that Sloth asked, what are the added benefits for creators utilizing the MGT Marketplace to launch NFTs as opposed to using a platform such as OpenSea? So what are the benefits? Yeah, using the marketplace versus OpenSea.
Well, it would be, what makes us different and unique is through our platform, you could require everyone to have to be within the Staples Center in order to collect that NFT, or everybody to be, within Los Angeles, or to be within a certain state, right? Your geofence can be whatever. So yeah, I mean, the answer to that is, what makes us different, and there's going to be times when OpenSea makes a lot of sense, I think, and there's going to be a lot of use cases where it does make sense to use something that's sort of geospatial. One of the great use cases that we've been talking about recently, like this comes from Brandon mostly, is this. Actually, I think it was a 100X podcast guys that first brought it up, and then Brandon really likes this use case. Is the what's his name? Dave Portnoy and his pizza review, right? So Dave visits all these pizza places. Dave loves pizza. Dave brings foot traffic by visiting these places. So why doesn't Dave drop 100 NFTs at each location with maybe a score right in the middle of it and the name of the pizza place to be purchased only when you're at that pizza place for 20 or 40 bucks. And when you buy them, it's a lifetime discount at the pizza place for 10% off pizza and whatever other value or utility Dave wants to assign to that particular NFT. And then if you collect all of the pizza NFTs within a year, then maybe Dave meets you for dinner, pie included. And yeah, so there's lots of really neat use cases where the geospatial component, I think, will make a lot of sense.
I feel like we could talk about use cases forever. That was one thing when I looked at the Gitbook. I was like, I could go for a long time about talking about use cases. And I did see that Skylar did have his hand up and I totally missed it. So I apologize. But if you do want to pop up and discuss, raise that hand again and I'll pull you up if you do. So kind of moving along as far line of discussion is utilizing the NFT marketplace. Is there a strategy to make sure there's a diverse range of NFTs and support for creators from various, say, outside of Web3, corporate, people that aren't in crypto or Web3?
Well, I don't think we're going to be pushing that in any way necessarily. We want to be pushing use cases and make people realize that there's all sorts of ways that even like a small business can do a little giveaway one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of the new age of couponing too, I think you could wake up and say, okay, who's got a special going on today? And look at the map and see who around you is doing, 20% off at the bakery over here, down at the bakery, or 15% over at the movie theater. And so we do envision a lot of that type of stuff happening. We do envision a lot of the geospatial or the geo exploration stuff happening. So, tokens on the top of Mount Everest and tokens on the coolest beaches in the world, potentially even selfies of influencers. I think there's going to be everything on this map. And it's actually one of the risks is, because it's super cheap to mint these things and put all over the world, and it could get a little spammy. So we are exploring the idea of expiry dates on these drops and playing around a little bit expiry date between the free drops and the ones that are paid. We're playing with these ideas.
Perfect. So that kind of drops into a really great question that Edge asked. I know that we started the conversation with, something your dad can use. So how, I guess, Web2 users can use the NFT marketplace.
Okay. How can it seem like Web2 and your dad can use it if you need an Exodus or Phantom wallet? Well, that's just it, is you don't need a Phantom wallet yet. To purchase in the moment, when you like the idea of the NFT, you can pull down and you can collect. And it's a transaction that just puts it into your MyGeoTokens wallet. And part of that minting on demand process, how that works is it's basically an image where you embed some metadata into one of the pixels of this image to sort of authenticate that it's one of the real and one of the originals. And then you can, if and when you want to, this thing starts to pick up some speed. And what we're working on is putting the real-time prices of all of these NFTs overlaid right on top of the image in your MyGeoTokens wallet. So you can see if these things are worth anything. And, if and when they are, then you can mint. And at that point in time, you'd have to connect your wallet. I hope that does a decent job of answering that question.
Thank you so much, Britt, for dropping that question back into the chat for me. I really appreciate it. And I am just scanning the chat because I think we covered just about all the questions that I pulled up here. I know I kind of melded some of them together, but I think that was about everything. I do want to remind everybody, because it looks like we've got a full kind of house here. If you haven't gone over to my Discord to enter the giveaway, please do. And let me go here. Steve, do you have anything else you want to add in before I round us out with Britt's last question? So Britt dropped a final question into the chat, which I'll answer here in a second.
You did, hey? Any final thoughts? No, thank you. Thanks for listening. I know it's Sunday afternoon and appreciate everybody's time. So thanks for listening to our project. Come check us out. It's becoming a pretty cool community. We're playing some games. The hype is building. We still got like a month and a half or two to go to mint. So, you're early. But yeah, happy to answer any other questions, I'm pretty active in our Discord also. So shoot me anything if you want to know anything else. But appreciate your time more than anything else.
Yeah, and I'm going to hit you with one more Miss Trill's question in the chat. Trill's question, is there software in place able to detect people spoofing IPs and MAC addresses? This kind of goes to Skylar's question of, are there safeguards to prevent people from spoofing their phone's location? So I don't know if you kind of want to cover that one again.
Sure. Yeah. So out of the gate, version 1.0, there's not. And we've talked lots about this. If this starts to happen, then it means that things are happening and we're gaining traction. I mean, it's a good problem for us to have, but we do see this in our next raise. We're setting aside some money. This is going to be a big piece of our R&D, because when there is incentive, then people try to cheat the system. So we do anticipate having to work on this over time. Really good question.
Yeah, and speaking of something that's more long-term and overarching, Trill also had another question, is how will the team carry out scaling the platform? So is scaling done based on community sentiment or what the devs seem necessary, if by the community or those using the platform? And will the community get a say? And I assume by community, Trill, I'm assuming you're referring to the Genesis collection holders, I would assume, the NFT holders.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back to Trill's actual question so I can see it here.
Yeah. So it's here, I can copy paste it.
See, is there software?
Here we go. I just dropped in again. How will the team carry out scaling the platform is pretty much the primary one. So growth of the platform.
Yeah. So I'm loving like I said, I'm loving Web3 and the community. So I'm realizing really quickly that it's all about the community. So without question, we'd be going to our early supporters, and those are probably the NFT holders, the pre-sale NFT holders, all the time, and asking for feedback. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this piece of it. Actually, is here's the six things we know need to get done. Now you prioritize them for us. So that'll be and it'll work like that. We know 6 things need to happen. You tell us what you think is most important. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, and NFT holders always find major value in that as well. And many take it very seriously. So that is something, if you've got people that are in there, they'll discuss it, talk about it, vet it, go through it. So that's great to hear. Skylar, yes. So there was some discussion, I think, in the 100X pod I listened to, but Skylar did say the topic of, people scamming the system or safeguarding to prevent people of using it. Skylar said otherwise the users will have to be low key about their drops or have low value drops. So I know you kind of discussed that was something with the Collectors Club, that they would have insights or hints about the drops, and the drops wouldn't be known way ahead of time to kind of avoid that.
Yeah, I guess I feel it's going to be okay out of the gate, and we'll continue to build. Yeah. And if it's a problem, then it'll be the first thing that we start to fix. There's a bunch of work being done on it, but there's nothing that is really good at just verifying location, right? Like I know there's this foam protocol that's happening. That's sort of proof of location. It uses triangulation, but it's not as easy as you think to do that. And I think, I know I can put myself through a VPN into Seattle, but I can't put myself into the Staples Center. So, I think it'll be a little touch and go. But it's a great discussion. I have it definitely in the back of my head as something that we're going to have to deal with over time.
Yeah, I think there's always something that you have to deal with as well, no matter what project you have. So it's great that you're already thinking about it. There's already discussion going on about it. Great questions, DeFi-Logic community. Thank you so much for all these questions. And I'll round to Britt's question that she had. What's the best way to support this project and get in on it, to be active in it? So MyGeoTokens is on Twitter. They also have a website, MyGeoTokens.com. You can, of course, join the Discord for the giveaway that's going on right now, but also for updated information, official links to the Gitbook, where there's lots of information in there. And then Zeely Quest as well are available, which tie into earning points for whitelist spots for MyGeoTokens. So there's quite a few different things. Discord's kind of the hub, though, it sounds like. And of course, Steve is in there if you have any questions that we didn't hit on today, or any that might come up if you look at the Gitbook or the website. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you all in Discord.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Adios.
Join us next week in Discord for Symposium Sunday at DeFi-Logic.com.